so proudly we hail, and the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the path.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Freedom Network. I am Gary, your host, and here we are live talking politics. That's what we do here on the Freedom Network. You can get a hold of us very easily. Two different ways you can do so. constitutionforfreedom@gmail.com, and that's the number 4. You can give us a call, as you can see right there on your screen. 266-0990 in the 508 area code. Well, boy, there's a lot going on, folks. I mean, come on, there's a lot going on. We've got the groups on Facebook and things of that nature. A lot of debate out there on Facebook, or Fedbook, as I like to call it. Any topic you want to discuss tonight, obviously, is on the table. We always make that offer. You can bring up anything you want, local to national to global, doesn't matter. If there's something you want to talk about, let's talk about it. Local goings on. I did want to mention at the very beginning of the show here that now a lot of people know Yvette, right? A lot of people know Yvette from Northbridge. She is from the Northbridge Litter Brigade. So she sent me a message, wanted me to let everybody know that her group will be meeting. Yes, they will. They will be meeting, and they'll be out on, what is that, Saturday, April 6th at 8 a.m. is the information that I have. They're meeting on Main Street by the food truck. If you're local, you know where that is. She needs your help. She needs to know if you're available, and if you are available, could you go and lend a hand? Group goes out and cleans the local streets of trash. That's what they do. They're the Litter Brigade. I'd like to thank all of you folks. That I know there's not enough, Yvette. I know. But those of you that do, just awesome, fantastic. Anything you have that's going on local, can be in any town, anywhere, let me know, especially right here in the local Northbridge area. All right. So what do you want me to say? We were hoping that Jim would be here, but Jim is not here. The space is empty. I know there'll be some upset people out there, but what can I tell you? Maybe he'll join us as we go through the program. I do have the inside track for those of you that insist upon texting me during the show about politics. But yeah, I don't know about Jim. He seems far out there. I think he's far out there. Well, he's far out there, all right, in more ways than one. Sorry, Jim. Anyway, all right, Trump. It's the huge, as they say, elephant in the room, purple elephant in the room. It really does, to me, as I always tell you, go issue by issue. Everything is issue by issue. Don't follow people. Don't worship people. You're an American. You don't need to be led. You don't need some leader. You don't need that stuff. When you're a free person, you don't need that stuff. And those people that are in elected office, especially those people in Washington that are in elected office, but all people that are in elected office, should have one goal, and that is to uphold the Constitution and preserve the freedom and the rights that we already have. We're not granted those rights by the Constitution or the people that hold office. There shouldn't be a government class as it is. But anyway, issue by issue, that's how I go. No parties, no people, no nothing. I don't care anymore. I'm done with all of them, to be quite honest with you. But going issue by issue, this week, oh boy, does it seem that there's a lot of egg on the face of the media. We have to call it the media. We have to do that because, let's face it, we don't really have a media. But this week, the media is absolutely positively going crazy. They're going crazy. We don't know all the details that are in the report. I'm sure we will find out when they come out. I'll give you my final opinion. But I've had very little opinion on it, with the exception of, it's fun to use the tactic that the Democrats I shouldn't say the Democrats, because there is a total huge chasm within the party of people that are more moderate, more, maybe not my cup of tea, but certainly not that extreme wing that has taken over the party. Anyway, I digress. Let's get back on topic. When we know all the details, then a final opinion can be made. People that have made opinions already and decided that he's guilty or he's innocent, whichever side you come down on, that's just based on your love or hatred for the guy. How much you either follow him or desire to follow somebody else, because anybody that vested needs a leader. And again, I don't know why anyone would need a leader. I certainly don't need, want, or desire any leaders. I'll just do my life and let me go that way. When we do get those, and we will, I'm seeing things come over the wire now, but based on the facts that we have so far, they're rather convincing. I mean, at the end of the day, they are rather convincing. They don't seem to have anything on him. Now, how can I say that? Well, because just like I said, they don't seem to have anything on him. They have been gunning after this guy, and this was this was big. And they got nothing. I mean, they don't have anything. If they did, they would be moving forward, I think, in a different way. Unless this is some, crazy practical, joke where they will finally release it, and then in the southern New York district they will use this evidence. I mean, I just don't see it happening. I know that a lot of you have hoped that this would have been the downfall of Donald Trump, but I just don't see it. Again, when we have all the facts, we can make an opinion. If you have an opinion already, if you're going to base your opinion on the facts, you should be thinking that there's nothing there. Now, what's interesting, if you notice on social media, everybody that was posting about the Russian Trump and this and that, they vanished. They're gone. They fight, like we could say media, they fight hard, but when pressed, they run away. And these are the people that are going to take over America? Give me a break. They're not going to take over anything. Not as long as you stand firm on freedom and stand firm on the Constitution that, while somewhat flawed, absolutely, is the best chance of protecting freedom that we have as a viable option. Why? Because we have it. It's right there. It is the law of the land. So vote that way. When you go to vote for somebody, that's the first thing that you should be looking at. How did they vote if they're an incumbent? And if they did vote on a tax increase, for example, no, we pay enough taxes. There are enough taxes paid. We've done shows on this about how much we really pay in taxes. When you look at the after paycheck taxes, it's insanity. But they have nothing on him. Seems to me that he did not collude with the Russians and I think what really stings here with a lot of the media is that with this being true, with him fixing the election and, the Russians helping him out, this would also vindicate Hillary as I didn't lose to Trump, it was set up. But it doesn't look like it was set up. So, yeah, she lost the election. He won the election. That's how it goes. I mean, every election, I'm like, really? This is the best we could do? But there is a winner, and I don't think that there was anything that they said that would indicate that the outcome of the election was changed by actions taken by Trump. As a matter of fact, in the meeting that they thought would make the indictments for his son, it's actually now been proven that he texted somebody and said, call me or get me out of this meeting. He was uncomfortable. So here's the underlying real issue that no one's talking about, but we'll talk about it, is that the Russians were trying to influence the election. If they did or they had any impact on it, it was not a known thing. It was sabotage. Who knows what the Hillary side had for conversations and things like that. And I think that now that we know that Russia was actively trying to mess with our republic, I think that needs to be fully investigated and see where it goes. It shouldn't matter if it's right, left, or it doesn't matter. We should see where it goes. And as far as Russia goes, if we have proof that their efforts were there, that if there was a willing accomplice, that there doesn't seem to be, if there was a willing accomplice, that they would have taken advantage of that. Well, I have a huge problem with that. Why isn't that the story? Because the story isn't, did he collude with the Russians to fix the election? He didn't. They said he didn't. They said that they don't have enough to charge. They word it, I get it, I know what they want to do, everybody can be a winner. I understand the politics behind it, but at the end of the day, everybody's gunning for this guy. You got Republicans going after him, you got Democrats going after him, you got independents going after him, the media's all going after him. If there was a shred of anything there, let me tell you something, impeachment hearings would already be going on. So we'll see what comes out, and if that's the case, and we can see proof that he did do that, I'll be the first guy to say, hang him in the public square, hang him for treason. And then, either way, we have to deal with the Russia issue, because nobody wants to talk about the fact that what was proved was that they wanted to affect our election. They wanted to infiltrate the Republic. They wanted to augment what we said and do something different. Or did they really care who won? I think really, in all honesty, what this looks like to me was a good test. They probably tested many times before, and this maybe was a live action test. I think we'd have to be insane to think that they didn't go to the Hillary camp and offer the same thing. And I'll be honest with you, to be quite honest with you, considering that she lost, I would say that they probably, said the same thing that the Trump people seem to have said, which was, hold on a minute, back off. Now, I can't surmise anything else because I don't have any other facts. If there are more facts that come through that show differently, then we'll look at them based on facts, not on emotion, or I hate Trump, so he's got to be this, or I love Trump, so he's got to be that. That's all baloney is what it is. What are the facts on the ground? So it seems to me like it's been a huge waste of time as far as the angle that the politicians and the media tried to go after, because that was just to go after Trump, whereas the real story that's embedded, the real story that exists, is that Russia really did want to, and actively, I believe, try to, especially with what happened in that meeting with his son, and he couldn't get the hell out of there fast enough. So these are just the facts that are on the ground. What's your opinion on it? What's your opinion on it? The media is going absolutely nuts, which is always funny to see. It's it's really, I think about it, watch it, YouTube it, all that kind of stuff, and I get to a point where it just becomes pure entertainment, because they're so beside themselves. Let's, look at, we have that montage, right? Do we have that montage of the various media outlets and different people within the media really telling you that this was it? I mean, Trump was done, this was it, and it's great to watch. Let's check it out. Check it out.
Donald Trump's done. He's done. There's no question about that. He's done.
Breaking news.
A bombshell.
Today is a turning point. Today was historically bad for President Trump.
Today was a turning point.
A turning point. We're at a turning point here.
The beginning of the end for the Trump presidency.
The beginning of the end.
And breaking news.
We have another bombshell.
Mike Pence might have to assume the office of the presidency.
The call for impeachment.
Rumblings of the word impeachment.
Breaking news.
Another bombshell out of the White House.
I believe this is the beginning of the end.
I do too.
It's really the beginning of the end.
The beginning of the end.
He may be feeling the walls closing in on him.
All the walls closing in on him.
The walls closing in on him.
Breaking news, a new bombshell.
One astrologer says this means the beginning of the end for President Donald Trump.
The beginning of the end of the Trump presidency.
Trump will resign.
Trump is going to resign.
Is this the tipping point? I know we've said it over and over.
You think this is a tipping point?
And over and over.
This is a tipping point.
And over and over.
Breaking news, President Trump off the rails.
It was the beginning of the end today.
The beginning of the end.
It reminds me a lot of the last days of Nixon.
Breaking news tonight, new bombshell.
This is the beginning of the end. The beginning of the end.
The walls are closing in.
The walls closing in.
The walls closing in.
Breaking overnight bombshell.
This is a very dramatic day, and I think it might be near a tipping point. Do you think this is a tipping point?
This is unbelievable. This is remarkable. Have you ever seen anything like this?
His presidency is crippled.
December 1st, 2017, you can mark it down. This is the day that everything changed.
We begin with the bombshell.
The beginning of the end?
The beginning of the end.
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 In fact, if this were a football game, we're in the third quarter. May even be the beginning of the end.
We begin tonight with the bombshell.
Donald Trump is in a lot of trouble.
Trump is in trouble.
The president will resign.
Another hour, another bombshell.
This is a tipping point.
Trump's going down.
This president could be impeached.
I do not think the president will serve out his term. Resignation. Resignation. I don't think this president is going to serve out his term. Mr. Trump will not serve out his term. He will not serve out his term. No way. No how.
Breaking news.
Absolute bombshell.
I think Donald Trump is in trouble.
Donald Trump is not. He's done. And it's over.
It's over.
The wall's closing in.
The wall's closing in.
This is going to be the Achilles heel.
Breaking news tonight.
I expect Trump to depart.
This week will be the watershed week.
Trump is in big trouble.
Trump's in a lot of trouble.
It's a sign of a terrified old man who feels the
Walls
Closing in.
The walls
are increasingly
Closing in on him.
Tonight, the walls
are closing in.
today changed everything. This is the beginning
Of the end.
today the biggest
Tipping point for the Trump administration.
What a historic day. The bombshells, they fell.
It's entropy and it's crumbling internally.
He's underwater. He feels
The wall's closing in.
Could his testimony be a turning point?
We may be at a tipping point.
It's the beginning of
The end.
The beginning
Of the end.
Another bombshell.
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 This is a bombshell.
It is a bombshell.
I am beginning to resent the word bombshell.
Interesting, funny stuff. If you want any links to this, always just let me know. Send me an email and I can send you a copy of anything that we play here. So what'd you think? I mean, that was, going along for quite some time. And we got to see kind of chronologically how the media... talking points much? I mean, really? They all speak the same. You can see the networks that are involved. You could have put Fox up in there too. I mean, it was just happened to be the one that we found, because I don't find them to be media any more than anybody else. They're still agenda driven. But at the end of the day, you take something like this, you're talking about as much proof as you need to know that this is not okay, folks. You don't have a media. They've been going after this guy hook, line, and sinker, right? They are all about it. This is what it is. This is what it's going to be. It's going to take this guy down. We're done here, right? I mean, they're literally scratching their heads like that. And now they're very upset. They're very, very upset. And we saw Rachel Maddow on there, gloating, if you will. I mean, this was it. And, I found a little video of her after this news was released that sorry, but we ain't got nothing, which is basically what happened there. Do we have that clip of Rachel? Let's view that one.
The AP has just broken some new news. This has just come out from the Associated Press. This is incredible. Trump administration officials have been sending babies and other young children. Oh, hold on. To at least 3 Can we put up the graphic of this? Thank you. Do we have it? No. 3 tender age shelters in South Texas. Lawyers and medical providers. I think I'm going to have to hand this off. Yeah. Sorry. That does it for us tonight. We'll see you again tomorrow. Now it is time for The Last Word with Lawrence O'Donnell, where he is live in Brownsville, Texas.
So when you see that, now I wanted you to see that. Now, when you go on to YouTube, I want you to look at the expressions on her face, compare them to what we just showed you. And I want you to look at the expressions and when she had to talk about what's happened. I'm out of order there, and I have the other one here. Unfortunately, I don't have it downloaded in, so I am not going to be able to show it to you. But you're going to go on to YouTube and just search her. But I wanted you to see the facial expressions. Now there she's, she's in turmoil because of what's going on. And you'll see her in the same turmoil, but much more subdued because she was trying so hard not to be looked at as crying. She was literally crying about, there's a lot of them that are literally crying, much like you saw her crying there, her and others. Not as definitely not as exaggerated, which is why I wanted to show you the other one, but I wanted to compare and contrast for a minute. Anyway, the media is completely beside themselves, much like you would see there, but the camera turns on and they're not pouring it on as hard. Of course, she's really pouring it on there, but she, along with almost every other media outlet, sorry, I forgot the quotes. What do you think? I mean, do you really think that you have a media when you look at things like that? And she is part of the media. I know it's a program, it's a show, much like this is. I don't consider this the media. When people say, I'm going to report the news and give you what's going on today in the news, to me, you need to be a newscaster. This is an opinion show, and it's billed as one. Nothing else is an opinion show. I mean, billed as an opinion show, but it's all an opinion show. The whole entire thing. The whole thing. An opinion seems to drive anything. Hey, we got one coming in. This is Don't Use My Name. And this is, yes, I actually did just do what you said, and you can see it. It's in the eyebrows and the nose area. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, definitely do that. And I can send you the link if you want the link to her doing it. I can do it right after the show. You obviously found it. Thanks for the email. Hope you're having a good night tonight. The bias that's out there is so prevalent. And it's amazing how once in a while, a story comes through, right, that actually could take something like this off the front pages. And that would be the Jussie Smollett saga. Some people have said they orchestrated this to get the positive Trump news off the news. But folks, before we move on, you've got to go online and search around and watch these news outlets, watch these broadcasters or these reporters, watch their body language. You saw the gross example of what body language looks like when you're forcing it. Then compare that and watch some of the similarities like the emailer had talked about. It's absolutely hysterical. You really should take part in it because you need to laugh. And the media is so out of control in this country. The media is so wild that we have to sometimes point these things out. And Jussie absolutely knocked Trump off the front page with his no charges filed. Now you all remember this this story, don't you? Chicago police are not happy. We'll get into that. It's really interesting. There's a lot of backlash. And what's interesting about this as I scroll through that's really great is this isn't a left-right, Republican, Democrat issue. We know where a lot of the people that we would consider conservatives stand on this, right? They've been all over the place. But you've even got people like the police in Chicago for a more, possible conservative outlook on it, and Rahm Emanuel, who is far from a conservative. Let's face it, the guy is pretty much a socialist. And we've got both of them for you. Now, this is really interesting to see how upset. Here's two entities with similar politics in some areas and different politics in other areas. But what this guy did, I can't get my head around this, how there are no charges filed. And what this guy did, he told police that he was attacked about 2 a.m. on his way home from a sandwich shop. He said 2 masked men shouted racial and anti-gay slurs, poured bleach on him. They beat him and tied a rope around his neck and claimed they shouted, "This is MAGA country," a reference to President Trump's Make America Great Again campaign slogan. So the tide shifted, right? And what is this from? Is this the Fox one? I can't remember where I copy and paste this. This might be from Fox. And this is the actor from Empire. They all of a sudden it started to seem, and then was shown, that he hired people to do this and that this was all fake. But he doesn't have to admit anything. Charges dropped. See you later. We've all seen the pictures of him with the Obamas and with Barack Obama. We do know that the charging authority was transferred from one entity to the other. Don't know how that happens, but it did happen. Oh, let's watch the Chicago police video. We got that one queued up?
This announcement today recognizes that Empire actor Jussie Smollett took advantage of the pain and anger of racism to promote his career. I'm left hanging my head and asking why. Why would anyone, especially an African-American man, use the symbolism of a noose to make false accusations? How could someone look at the hatred and suffering associated with that symbol and see an opportunity to manipulate that symbol to further his own public profile? How can an individual who's been embraced by the city of Chicago turn around and slap everyone in this city in the face by making these false claims? Bogus police reports cause real harm. They do harm to every legitimate victim who's in need of support by police and investigators, as well as the citizens of this city.
I mean, there is a upset individual, and I think rightfully so. You know, as they were taking the time to investigate this, spending the money, but beyond that, the time, because we're paying these people anyway to investigate crimes. You know, there were actually real crimes that maybe were impeded, that couldn't be looked at, because this person had to make up a story because he wanted, I think, as we just saw, to get his name out there or to call attention to a cause or whatever the heck it is. We don't know, because he feels vindicated. If you watch him, he's vindicated. Bring that up on the YouTube. I mean, this is such a huge story. And I can't believe that, I just can't even believe that this is, I got an email coming in from Janice. Janice says, "Hey Gary, how you doing? Cool topics. Yeah, I can't believe this whole story about this Jussie guy, or is it Jesse? I'm not sure how to pronounce it. It's Jussie. It's Jussie is how he spells it, I believe. Anyway, I can't believe that he would do this. He has set back race relations in eternity. I don't know if he set them back. I think, if anything, all the people coming out and saying this is ridiculous just shows you that, you know, race relations in America are a lot better than the media and the government want you to think. They are absolutely, there is a clear effort to divide people based on what you believe in politics, and you know, just what you believe in general about anything. They want everybody in a box, and it's whether you're a different race, whether you're a different religion, a different political orientation or sexual orientation. They want everybody divided because we continue to fight each other, and we don't look up and say, wait a minute, what's going on up there in Washington? You know, we're all so busy down here in the cave fighting each other over what? Really, over what? So what? Big deal. You and I disagree on some issues. So what? To see the country so polarized and so divided. And they're all responsible for that. It's the entire government. It's the entire media. The whole thing is just a mess. It's just a mess. Let's listen in on Rahm Emanuel, very liberal, socialistic type of guy. He was also very upset as to what happened in his neck of the woods. Let's run it.
Gay men and women who will come forward and one day say they were a victim of a hate crime who now will be doubted. People of faith, Muslim or any other religious faith, who will be a victim of hate crimes. People that of all walks of life and backgrounds, race, ethnicity, sexual orientation. Now this casts a shadow of whether they're telling the truth, and he did this all in the name of self-promotion. And he used the laws of the hate crime legislation that all of us collectively over years have put on the books to stand up to be the values that embody what we believe in. This is a whitewash of justice. A grand jury could not have been clearer. To then say,
You know, it's, I mean, again, this transcends, unlike the Trump situation where everybody is scrambling and nobody knows what to say. And it's so funny because they're all so invested. See, those are the people that you're either overtly hearing from or not hearing from, are so invested because they're following or they're being led, whether it's to love them, to hate them, it doesn't, they just won't go issue by issue and say, you know, Harry's great, Harry stinks, Harry's full of baloney, and Harry's wonderful. So what? What do you have to be, all in or nothing? Is that that's what it is now? Again, this is how they make us and put us into boxes. Because if you're fighting me and you're fighting your guy on Facebook or the lady on Facebook, whatever you're doing with your time in politics, which we all do, I do plenty of it, if you're not, though, making some efforts to get people to actually read and understand the intent and then hopefully embrace the intent of America and the freedom in which it should protect, what are you really doing? I make it a point. We have young Michael that will email in now and then. That the first time I talked to him, he sounded to me like a left-wing kind of person. And all I did was I said, hey, will you do me a favor? Will you read some parts of the Constitution, maybe some of the Federalist Papers? He read, he did the things on his own, and so impressive just to see how he has evolved and still has some very libertarian views and other views, but this is a young man that's very active with the Freedom Network and with other political things and all around in the politics world. To see that stuff happening, that's how you change America. It doesn't matter if we agree on every single issue. What matters is that on the big picture, we know that freedom is where we want to be. So whether this one wants this or this one approves that or that one doesn't like this, that's where some of the gray comes in. You've got a representative republic here, and when it comes down to the states, you have an absolute input. You can put people in to do what you want to do on the federal level, and the things that are protected federally, they got to be protected. And it amazes me how people allow, in general, for either states' rights to be denied or states' rights to overstep, because they do both. In some cases, the states overstep, and not that they get involved with things like, Jim and I were talking about the marijuana shops last week, right? That's got no federal jurisdiction anyway. They invented that jurisdiction, but that constitutionally would be up to a state. I'm talking about something like, I don't know, a gun law or a law that impedes freedom of speech, things of that nature that are protected federally. The states overstep all the time. And they also allow the feds to overstep into their area all the time. So we really don't have a system that's working as intended. So the way to win the battle, unless you're going to go and physically fight the government, which, to be quite honest with you, is a grim outlook, but something that I think, I don't know. 20 years ago, I probably would have said, no, that's never going to happen. But I couldn't say that now because things are pretty hot and heavy. But don't forget that half the reason that they're so hot and heavy is because by design they're hot and heavy, because you fight each other. Wait till you ever really start fighting each other, citizen to citizen, and you start to have massive clashes. They'll institute martial law. They'll do all kinds of things. And they'll do it to protect you, in the name of you. Everything, is well, it's for the children. Well, it's for your protection. And you will see more and more and more overt government. You have to fight this stuff. You got to engage people. You got to talk to people. And yeah, sometimes you got to tell people, screw. And that's okay too. But you have to really make an effort to at least find a dozen people and make them think twice if they think that the Constitution is something that maybe should be followed sometimes, but we could go around it now and then. Anyway, I don't know. I was sent a video, and I think I have time for it. I think we should play it. It's a little bit long, not terribly long, but it's a great speech that was made by somebody in a public forum, local aspect to it, but I have more information on it that I can send you. I don't have a ton of information on it, but it was sent to me from Tim. Tim, if you have been around the Freedom Network for a while, you know the old email, timorgary@gmail.com. Tim was actually, in reality, the founder of the Freedom Network, and he didn't know it was going to be the Freedom Network when he founded it, but him and I had gone to school together, and we kind of started talking again through social media, and he was doing a show. We were down in Stoughton, and we kind of, at that point started this. It was originally, there was supposed to be a liberal, which I'd love. I'd love a liberal to come and sit here every single week so that we could really discuss politics, but unfortunately, I can never get anybody to commit. But the invitation certainly stands. Anyway, I thought this was something that we should play. It's all about your rights, and it's about a person speaking out, and it can be moving if you let yourself get lost in it. So let's get lost in it for a minute here. It runs a few minutes, but it's well worth the time. We have the time. Thanks for sending it in, Tim. Here, take it.
Good evening, representatives, and thank you again for your time today. Good morning, right? The United States of America, above all else, is a constitutional republic. Yes, we have a democracy in which we get to vote for our elected officials, but our elected officials, you, above all else, are limited in your power and in the legislation that you pass by the Constitution of the United States, a document on which you raised your right hand to God and swore an oath to, a document whose premise is regularly under attack. Unfortunately, it's being attacked by the very people who are sworn to abide by it, our government. And it's our own faults that the Constitution is under duress. We, the American people, who are supposed to have control of our government, have been asleep at the wheel and all too trusting, while you, our legislators, senators, representatives, and politicians of all parties and backgrounds have run amok, unabashedly using your power and influence to limit the freedoms and liberties of the individual. Americans love to proclaim that we are a free people, yet have lost sight of what it means to be free, and in saying so are lying to ourselves. Yes, we are fortunate enough to have freedoms that others in the world do not, but we are no longer free as our founders had intended us to be. Yet those very founders had foreseen how even in America, a runaway government could become problematic, and they added a constitution to an amendment to the Constitution, a fail-safe, so to speak, that would protect us against the rampant abuse of power by our government, an inalienable constitutional right to keep and bear arms. The founders saw this as so important and necessary, it was the Second Amendment to our Constitution, directly following the right to free speech, which I'm fortunate enough to benefit from here today. The founders of this great land knew, having just won a war for their freedom against an unjust power, that given enough time, all governments have a propensity to become too powerful, and as a direct result, the freedom of its constituents falters. This was their reasoning behind their inclusion of the right to keep and bear arms within the Constitution. They even went so far as to include, even though it's already implied, the phrase, shall not be infringed. This does not mean that you, regardless of how many people call on you to do so, can limit the type or capacity of the firearms that we, as free Americans, can own. Don't forget that at the time of this country's founding, Americans had access legally to the same type of weaponry that the military had. And that was the point. It was for our protection against the state. That's how we can keep them in check. I think if we look at the tremendous amount of overreach practiced today by the United States government, it's pretty apparent why those at the very top want to take away this means of protection that our forefathers entrusted to us. They've realized that we Americans who hold our liberties dear are fed up. We are tired of being overregulated. We're tired of being taxed until we're near penniless. We're tired of our money going to a Federal Reserve to pay an unsustainable debt that we have to international banksters who couldn't care less about America. We're tired of having to ask for government's permission and licensure to do things that are within our God-given rights as free people to do. We're tired of seeing state-run programs being ran inefficiently, ineffectively, and wastefully. We're tired of news outlets, Hollywood, social media, and the education system being used as propaganda to indoctrinate the populace and advance the state's agenda. We're tired of being lied to. We're tired of going to war under false pretenses. To summarize, we're tired of our uncontrollable government. While we feel our voices have fallen on deaf ears to our politicians, make no mistake that amongst the citizenry, there is a quiet storm brewing. We are approaching a tipping point, and you'd be remiss to think that those at the top of the power structure aren't shaken by this. It doesn't take much critical thought to surmise why they're trying so hard to pass legislation against privately owned munitions. And to those who support this legislation, it's my understanding that you believe by being here, you're advocating against violence. On the contrary, you're advocating for violence. If the state decides to make 10-round magazines and assault weapons, which, by the way, is an incredibly vague, ambiguous term that I don't think anybody could really define, if you decide to make them illegal, are you advocating that the state use violence or threats of violence to disarm innocent Americans? Because it certainly sounds like it. You can't sincerely believe that we're just going to forfeit our right to self-defense, knowing the purpose of this right and understanding the unlawfulness of civil asset forfeiture, notwithstanding the money people have spent on their guns. What happens when we defy these laws? Are you advocating that men with guns come to take away our guns? Because it sure sounds like it. Also, it needs to be said that I'm sure some of those on the other side have used the words Trump and Hitler in the same sentence, yet advocate that the state, with someone who they refer to as a fascist dictator at the forefront, be the only entity allowed to have guns. You see where I'm going with this? These people are hypocrites, and they should think for themselves instead of thinking what they're told to think. And before you quip that I'm here on behalf of the NRA or that I have some sort of ulterior motive, I am not, and I do not. I am not an NRA member. In fact, I believe that the NRA is far too willing to compromise on some gun laws, as they know they will take on more donors and make more money whenever there is conflict. So the more they compromise, the more gun laws get introduced, and the more money they make. So no, before anybody says so, I'm not NRA, and I'm also not what you might call a gun nut. I own but a pistol for personal protection and a rifle which I've literally just acquired as a direct result of this law being written. I'm not a sportsman, and I'm not a collector. I'm just someone with an understanding of history who, by virtue, does not trust his government. And I know what some of you may be thinking, that I'm some sort of extremist. My delivery is very abrasive. Some of you aren't thinking at all because you tuned me out at the start once you heard my position, and that's fine. If these generalizations apply to you, I ask you to please familiarize yourself with the history of America and the Constitution as it was written. Ladies and gentlemen, America was conceived out of defiance, and we not only have a constitutional right as free Americans, but also an inalienable right as human beings to defy any and all laws that are unjust. Lest we not forget that a mere 3% of colonists sparked the American Revolution. There are millions of libertarians paying attention to what is being discussed today. Representatives, it is a sure bet that if the government you represent continues on this path of tyranny, we will not comply. I ask you to please remember the basis on which this country came to be before you decide to pass any more overreaching legislation, especially in regards to firearms. For those who forget history are doomed to repeat it. Thank you very much.
Those are some powerful words, folks. Very powerful words. And you know, you got to look at that and you got to say, wow. I mean, this is where we're at. And what he's doing is he's addressing the problem, which is the government. You don't see him out there, fighting other citizens and things of that nature. He's going to where the root cause is. And what he says is very true. We don't want to see anything get crazy. At the same time, I think it's foolish of the government to think that it would never get crazy, because it could. But I think they know it could, and I think that's why they want everyone in their boxes. You love Trump, you hate Trump. That's the big polarization of the day. And then, you know, you're various other boxes that they can put you in. It's just something that I think's worth watching. Again, if you want any links to any of that stuff, go for it. It's just very interesting. Let me see. Here's one coming in. Good evening. Very powerful words. Oh, send me a link. Yeah, all right. I'll send you the link to that. Sorry. That was, I guess, just an email to me. I'll send you a link. But yeah, they are very powerful words. And I think that they're words that should probably be repeated often at all levels of government. And I think that, maybe I'm naive, but I think that if everybody just could kind of get to that spot, forget the other stuff, but let's just stop the government from operating the way it does because it's not operating as intended, then we could stop it with no bloodshed, with no problems. Like that, anyway. I don't know. What can I tell you? What can I tell you? You know, Brockton is flirting with the idea of becoming a sanctuary city. Yeah. They may even have voted on it by now. I was going to talk about this a couple of weeks ago. But what if your town was one? Do you support that? Would you like this town to be a sanctuary town? And if so, why? And would you like your town where you live to be a sanctuary town or city? I mean, I'm a citizen, right? I'm a citizen of the United States of America, and I'm required to follow the law. As are you, probably, if you're out there watching. But if, you know, you're here illegally, then you have broken a law. And I guess then the laws don't apply to them. Because if I break a law, if I leave this station and start doing donuts out on the street here and speed doing 90 miles an hour up the side road, I'm breaking the law. I could face a consequence for that. Why is it that someone that has broken the law that isn't a citizen would not face a consequence for what they've done? So I'm held to a higher standard. There's laws that apply to me, and then there's laws that don't apply, the same laws, to illegals. Let's face it, when you have a sanctuary city, you're saying you can continue to break the law. As a matter of fact, some places have gone as far as to be warning people in courtrooms and things of that nature. I mean, this is getting out of control, folks. This is getting way, way the hell out of control. Immigration is a wonderful thing. It's a good thing. We should have a healthy immigration process here in the United States. We absolutely should. But why can't it be done legally? When was the last time that you saw, right? When was the last time that you saw somebody that wanted or that supported the illegal immigration world actually go and try to change the legal immigration laws? I haven't seen it happen at all. If you have it, send me a link. Let me know. But think about that for a minute. They want certain people to come in, just certain people. And we can go through crime statistics and all that stuff, and we may. But what they want is votes. You can be sure that if the illegal immigrant population were die-hard conservatives and loved Republicans, that the Democrats would have absolutely no use for them, none whatsoever. And you could probably say the same thing about Republicans. They may have more of a use for them if they would vote for them. I think that's, got to be stated, obviously. But when we look at things and we say that, they do jobs that people don't want to do, and, how can anyone be illegal? And, it goes on and it goes on. And I first of all will say to you that we're a species on this planet. Most mammals have borders, territories. They fight over them. They have forever. When we came to this land, there weren't just defined borders that were here forever. Oh, no, no, no. These tribes fought all the time over land and things of that nature. When you look at the data and you say to me that it's not a big issue, assault, now this comes from the government enforcement statistics. You can find this. I can send you a link to it. This is not Fox. This is not CNN. This is a .gov. Assault and battery or domestic violence. They report 2016, 17, and fiscal 18 as well. Now, it has been dropping, and that's very interesting that it's been dropping because we seem to have been trying to do more about the illegal immigrant issue, but you're talking about 1,000, just over 1,000 people were assaulted that wouldn't have been assaulted if that person was not here illegally. If the law was being enforced, if they were not allowed to be here, those 1,000 people wouldn't have been assaulted. That domestic violence wouldn't have happened, or it wouldn't have happened here, of course. It went down to 692 in 17 and 524 in 18. So you're talking since 2016, well over 2,000, 2,200, somewhere around there, right? 2,300, somewhere around there. People have been assaulted or victims of domestic violence. And this has happened through people that were here illegally. I mean, the list goes on. And like I said, these aren't Fox News and these aren't CNN. This comes from, as we like to call them in our world, if you know our world, this is a .gov. You know, this is their situation. This is their info. Homicide and murder. There's been 14 of them since 2016. 14 lives taken. That if those particular people were not here, chances are they'd probably still be alive. So as I always say when we talk about that, you know, the legal versus illegal immigration question, I always say, you go tell those 13 or 14 families that the greater cause of allowing illegal immigrants to stay here and to flow into the country is so important that it's more important than the life of your son, daughter, mother, father, or whatever it may be. You go tell them that, because I don't have the you-know-what to do it, nor would I in a million years. And that's the reason, and that's the number. Illegal reentry has gone from 7,000 in fiscal 16 down to 4,500 and then to 3,900. When you look at those numbers and watch as the crimes that they're committing have dropped, it doesn't mean that everybody here illegally is committing a crime. These numbers are very small compared to the illegal immigrant population that lives in the United States, which you can get numbers anywhere from 10 million to 25 million. It depends where you want to look. So these are very small, very small. My point is they're far from insignificant. These are people's lives. Drug trafficking, sexual offenses. Sexual offenses. You're talking about well over 300 in the past 3 years. You're looking at an average of 100 a year, roughly, of people that are sexually abused by people that shouldn't be here. That's real. Again, you tell them that, you know what, for the greater good, this had to happen to you. They're not citizens. Now, I don't support, killing them or imprisoning them forever. What I would support is a logical conversation on how to expand legal immigration. That would be a great conversation that we could have. But the left doesn't want to have that conversation because they just see voters. And it saddens me to think that these type of numbers are worth votes. They're worth power. Your life is worth the votes that they can get. How can that possibly be? So as I always say, let us expand the processes we have for legal immigration. Let us allow people to come to America that want to be part of America. Absolutely, positively. Why would we not want that? But we can't let people run around and do these heinous things to other people because we want to advance some agenda. As I said, you go tell those families that their family member's life doesn't matter as much as your cause. Sorry to be so direct about it, but that's how we got to be. We're going to sign off for the evening. We will make way for the next live program that will be coming your way right now. You'll be able to talk about all kinds of stuff. So make sure that you tune in on that. Lots going on here at the station. So, go online, see what's happening, and make sure that you tune into all the great programming here. This has been the Freedom Network. We will be back next week.
Because we are the prey. Yes, we are the prey. We'll fight you in the name of the fray. We are the U.S. of A. For those